Are you ready to be introduced to InDesign a little further? Well, now that you've already seen Illustrator and you've seen Photoshop and the tools that they use and some of their similarities, and remember, Illustrator is going to be more of your illustration, design, logos, and Photoshop is more of your photo manipulation and retouching program. Both of those programs create elements and objects that you can actually place into Adobe InDesign. Now, don't get me wrong, Adobe InDesign, you can design some of your layouts and design some of your elements in InDesign. But just remember, InDesign is your desktop publishing and page layout program. So it's not going to have all the fancy bells and whistles that you do in either Photoshop or Illustrator. And what's Photoshop? Raster. Illustrator is vector. So you can bring both of those together in your page layout program. Okay, with InDesign launched, we're going to create a new document. And you can create a new document by the window that comes up when you launch it by clicking Document, or you can go to File, New. This time we'll just click on Document to create a new document. It brings up your information that you can adjust and set for your document. You can change your document size. You can also change the width, the height, your orientation. For this document, we're going to leave it letter vertical, and we're going to leave everything else set at the default. You can even insert how many pages that you want in your document. Again, we're just going to leave this at 1 because I'm going to show you how to add pages once you're inside your document because it's so flexible. I could even start this out with 10 pages, delete it down to 1 when I get in there, or vice versa. Click OK. Alright, here's your single page in InDesign for your page layout. Your toolbars and your panels should be there from choosing your Essentials workspace. And let's take a look. Well, let's draw simple ellipse with your ellipse tool. And as you can see in your toolbar in the fill and stroke, the stroke has a black applied to it. And you can swap your fill and stroke with the arrow up there. So we're going to swap it that you have a black fill in your object. Now you can come up to your selection tool. You can select your object and move it on your page. And let's take a look at, you've got your direct selection tool where it works just like Illustrator. You click on a point and adjust it. So you do have some of the liberties of Illustrator. And again, that object that you illustrated, if you zoom in, it has a smooth, I'm just zoomed in pretty quick. I'm trying to zoom out here just so I can grab the zoom tool and show you. It's got that smooth edge just like the vector art does. And you select the hand tool and you can move it around your page. Command minus, you can zoom out just like Illustrator and Photoshop. You can Command plus to zoom in just like Illustrator. So again, those key commands come into play because you can utilize them in all of your programs. With your selection tool, you can scale your object, hold your shift key, keep the proportion, just like in Photoshop and Illustrator. Sorry, I hit the wrong button. Need your text tool. Alright, with your text tool, of course, you can create some type. By clicking and dragging. You can highlight your copy to edit your font choice, or you can just have it selected and change your font choice. My program is running very slow, and it's I apologize if it looks a little funny and selecting some random things. It's just because it's kind of dragging a little bit. Now, the one thing about changing your character with your text box selected instead of just highlighting your text is that it formats that whole body of copy instead of just what you have selected. So keep that in mind when you're working on larger bodies of copy. And remember your pen tool from Illustrator and Photoshop. Click and drag to get those handles. So again, if you've been practicing your Illustrator and Photoshop, you should be able to pick up InDesign tools, and you'll be on your way to making your multi-page documents. And also you have your eyedropper tool, just like all your other programs. You have your rulers already come in with your InDesign program. If they don't, again, Command R takes them away, Command R brings them back to toggle, or you can find them under View, Hide Rulers, or if the rulers are not showing, it'll say Show Rulers. And from your ruler, if you click in your ruler and drag down, you can bring a guide. I want you to take a look at where your 0 hits in your ruler. If we drag a guide, we've got 0 down the vertical, and click and drag another ruler, you've got 0 down the left-hand side of your page. With your ruler, and this goes same for Illustrator and Photoshop as well, if you click in that top corner where your rulers intersect, you can actually reset where your 0 point starts. So now you can see I clicked and drug it into the margin, and 0 starts at the margin. So it just comes in play when you're starting to align things or you're getting specific specs that you need to lay artwork out in. You can judge and guide with your rulers and set your 0. To reset it to the default so it is at the top left corner for your 0, 0, you double click in that corner where the rulers meet, and it resets your 0 back to that top left corner. Very handy. Now let's take a look at your text, and if you're going to flow, I'm going to, let's see, what is lorem ipsum? Just Googled lorem ipsum, go to the Wikipedia page. You can highlight the lorem ipsum copy. Your lorem ipsum is just a placeholder copy. It doesn't say anything, you can't read it, but it just holds your copy in place. You select the copy, Command C to copy, make sure your text tool and cursors blinking, do Command V to paste. Again, you could have come up to edit, paste. Again, those key commands really need to come in handy. So now you've got a body of text. I'm going to go ahead and delete this. Well, now I'm starting to get some text, I'm getting some objects. So let's take a look at layers, and then we'll get back to some more ins and outs of flowing our copy. Alright, well, really with your layers, you want to set up very minimal layers in InDesign. Very, very minimal. 2 to 3 at the most. 4 is probably pushing it. It's going to depend on what you're working on. But let's just start by renaming our initial layer as background. Let's create a new layer for graphics and create a new layer from the drop-down menu as text. Okay, so again, this layer palette should be very familiar to you and how you use it. The drop down for a new layer or new layer down at the bottom. Name your layers clearly. And let's go ahead and select some of our items and move them from layer to layer. You're going to select your text box, and again, you take your blue indicator and drag it up to the text layer. You turn off your text layer, it goes away, you turn it back on, it comes back. And you can also lock your layer so you cannot move it. And then we have, let's move this to our objects, or our graphics layer. Okay. And now I want to show you how your wraparound text works. This is a feature that only InDesign has. Illustrator does not have this, so this comes in handy when you need to wrap text around an object. So if you take your object, you want to make sure you have both items selected and click Wrap Around. Now, as you can see, I didn't have to have both of them on the same layer. I still have my text on the text layer, and I've got my object. I left it on the background layer, but you can even move that to the graphics layer. So you can wrap copy around items that aren't even on the same layer. So it's very handy and extremely flexible. And also with that text block, you can adjust the size of your text block and how it's going to flow around your copy. Very nice feature. And you're going to notice if you have a block of copy and there's a red plus and a square, that means there's more copy that needs to be revealed. So it should be a blank square that is there. And when you format your copy, you go to your character palette. You can change your font. You can change your point size that is there. And you can even change if your copy, there we go, is centered or left aligned. Now you can select all of your copy or grab your selection tool and select that body of copy, and you can just double click into your body copy and you can change any of the alignment and justification of your copy up in your top panel. So take a look, check that out. Now let's take a look at adding pages in your Pages panel. It could be a little overwhelming. Take some time to get used to it. But you can add all of your pages here. Think of this as kind of your roadmap if you have done any work in PowerPoint. Fairly similar in a sense to the smaller pages that you see on the left-hand side. Now these don't go into as much detail, but at least you can see the layout and the format. So in your Pages panel, we know we opened this document up and we started only with one page. You'll see some items up above that line. It says Master. Those are your master pages. That's going to come at a later date and digging into InDesign a little bit further on how to utilize master pages. What I really want to make sure you know in these in this tutorial is that you know how to use the tools and where the tools are located. So we've got one page. We need to add another page. You can come down to the bottom button, click on Create a New Page, and it'll add in a second page. Now in the document setup, these are actually the document is set up as facing pages. So as you add in your pages, they add them in butting into the center, just like if you're opening up a book or a magazine. So if you go to, let's see here, and you can also delete pages right there with the trash can. Make sure you have a page that's selected. You can delete it. And it automatically reshuffles and orders your pages for you. Very handy. It's something you cannot do in Illustrator as easily. You can do some work with the artboards and reorder your artboards, but as far as changing up your document setup, by far InDesign does it very well, especially with the master page feature. So I just did Command minus to zoom out so you can kind of see how your document will look if you have multiple pages in InDesign. And you can see you've got a document page, you've got facing pages, and another facing pages, and it matches exactly what is in your Pages panel. Now if you go to File, Document Setup, you can see that I have the facing pages checked. So that means facing pages, just like a book, it's something is going to be bound when you are creating files in this manner. If you click off facing pages, you can see that it changes your setup, that you do not have your pages next to each other left and right. It just scrolls them down. Again, kind of more like if you're looking at a PowerPoint on the left-hand side. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. So your document setup, you can change your page setup even in the middle of your design if you have to. As always, you want to get as much info as you can before you start your work to find out if you have 1 page, 5 pages, 20 pages, and how, if they're going to be individual pages, facing pages, because that's going to help even when you start looking at your design aesthetic and your choices that you're going to make, if you need a page spread or not. So if you go back to File, Document Setup, I'm going to show you your margins, columns, and gutters. So I'm going to click on More Options. Where did that go? Cancel. I'm sorry. Where? There we go. Layout, margins, and columns. I'm sorry. Woo! Okay. I was all stuck on document setup there. I'm sorry. Alright, so let's do that again. We're going to go to Layout, Margins, and Columns. And here's where you can adjust the margins on your pages that are at top, bottom, left, or right. And you can also add in columns and your gutters. So with your margins, if you view up here in the screen, I'm going to adjust the top margin. If I increase my top margin, you can see it start coming in along with my bottom. Okay. Your number of columns you can adjust. Okay. Oh goodness. Something is not working. Oh, there we go. I was not on my original page. My apologies. My goodness. Okay. So, I was zoomed in. I thought I had a blank page. Okay. Your margins and columns are going to be adjusted per page. I'm gonna double click on my page over here and go to Layout, Margins, and Columns. So if you adjust your margins, the top and bottom, if it's locked, it's going to bring everything in proportionately. Your columns, you can add in columns of copy, and you can also adjust a gutter. When you add columns, it automatically adds some gutter space. And if you expand that a little bit more, it widens up that gutter. So again, you can set up your aesthetic that you're looking for. And click OK. Again, sorry, my apologies. I didn't realize I was not zoomed in onto my page that I was actually making those changes to. So you can see that you can actually create different column width guides and margins on your different pages as you need. Just make sure that it's selected. Okay. All right. Now saving. Let's go to File, Save As. I'm going to choose my Module 7 folder. And call it InDesign Intro. Again, remember InDesign doesn't add that extension on there until after it is saved and shows up in your folder. And also there's your name up in the very top. You can go to File, Save As, and you can create a template from that. A template is used if you want to be able to save something that someone else can pick up without them being able to edit or change it. When you make a template, those changes from who creates that template is uneditable and people cannot save over it. Now they can save as and save a different file, but it preserves that original file. Because trust me, there are accidents that people accidentally save over a file that was not intended. So that's usually handy. But under there you don't have the Save As feature for a PDF like Illustrator does. So I'm going to hit Cancel. You're going to go to File, Export. You're going to have to export to make a PDF in InDesign. So that's a little different than in Illustrator. In Illustrator, you can go to File, Save As to create a PDF. File Export is just your JPEGs in those file formats. But here you can see you export to get a PDF or your JPEGs that you may need. So let's export for a PDF. I like to go ahead and add the extension when I'm doing the PDFs. Click Save. Now again, you get those settings up at the top. I'm just going to click a smallest file size and let all the settings that are default be and click Export. Alright. Let's take a look. In our 7 folder, we have our InDesign file, and we have a PDF. If you open up your PDF into Adobe Acrobat, you will see, I'm just zooming out. If you click on your Pages tab over there left, if you're not aware of that, you can see that all those guides do not show up, only your artwork does, and it makes a PDF of all of your pages within that document. Hide Acrobat and go back to InDesign. So go ahead, hop in, get used to playing around with your pages in your Pages panel, flowing copy, laying out, and choosing your fonts, and again, kind of working with your pen tool a little bit more, that text tool, and you will be on your way to designing in InDesign.